A very odd family, well, mostly the dad, creates a helium-powered flying saucer as a science experiment. The family goes outside to test it out. They're only going to put it to like 13 to 20 feet tied up. Well, somebody forgot to tie it. And then they realize there is a strong possibility that their 6-year-old son is in this flying saucer that is now 10,000 feet in the air. As news helicopters follow the saucer, frantic neighbors are searching neighborhoods, yards, anywhere a 6-year-old could possibly be. Something doesn't really add up, of course. The year is October 2009, which is the year I graduated high school. Yes, I am 97 years old. You can call me grandma. It's all good. So this man, Richard Heaney, I don't even know how to describe this guy. During this incident, he's in his 40s, okay? He reminds me so much of Tom Sandoval. Anyway, this Richard Heaney guy is an amateur scientist. He's obsessed with science experiments. Him and his family would storm chase, tornado chase, like with their kids in the car. They got 3 young boys and they're with them storm chasing. He made some sort of like rocket that could go up into a tornado and do something with the tornado. It never worked, but like he made something for that. And he was always doing something of that nature. So they have 3 kids, Falcon, who's 5 years old, Rio, who's 8 years old, and Bradford, who is 10. And then Mayumi is his wife. Mayumi is from Japan, and she is, as of now, not a US citizen, which comes in later. I'm not just being a Republican. Like, it's part of the story. Apparently, Richard wanted to build a flying saucer since specifically 1979. He said he wanted to be like the Jetsons. He wanted people to be able to just fly to work real quick. He has this dream of everyone using air travel because there's no traffic. It's like, well, you know what, buddy? I think if this was so popular that people were using it for work, there'd be some air traffic. The family is under financial stress also. It is 2009. If you don't know, 2008 was a huge economic crash in America, and people had to sell their homes, people lost their jobs, like it was a bad time. So in 2009, people are still struggling. I don't know their exact financial situation. Like at one point, Richard says something about not being able to afford cable, so I feel like that's just like they're struggling a little bit. So in October of 2009, they want to do a test launch of this flying saucer on their 12th wedding anniversary. Honestly, that sounds like a really fun way to celebrate, to be honest. I'd be down for that. Unfortunately, it was a bad weather day, so they had to do it a couple days later, and it ended up being on a day where the kids were home from school, so now the kids could be a part of it. And this flying saucer thing is made of aluminum and wood and God knows what else, but it is about 20 feet across and 6 feet tall. And mind you, this family films this whole day. Like this whole day is on film pretty much up until the thing happens, but they were a family that recorded a lot. Mostly Mayumi is the one who's filming. She loves tech, editing, all that stuff. So she's the one doing the camera stuff for the most part. And before they do this launch, Richard says, and it's on camera, he says, okay, why don't you go outside and make sure the thing is tethered down? Because they only want to let it go up like 13 feet or something like that to just see what it does in the wind and just kind of see what happens. So right under the saucer, there's a little compartment that is used so you can go in and fill it with helium. It wasn't built or anything, Richard says, for anyone to be in it, obviously, while it's in flight, but it is there and it's for somebody to go in to fill it with helium. But their son Falcon is just one of those kids who's like always hiding. He's always touching things he's not supposed to be touching. He's like a classic devious boy. And for the couple weeks they were putting this thing together, I guess towards the end he kept trying to climb in it, trying to get in it, and he was doing it the day that they wanted to launch. He kept going in it so much that Richard, the dad, was like yelling at him and was like, get out, like do not go in the saucer. So they have a helium hose filling it up. They're all getting excited just seeing it pop, to its natural form of this flying saucer. And apparently Richard took a stun gun to the basket and ran 1,000,000 volts of electricity across the balloon's surface. The plan was for the electricity to be able to maneuver the balloon. And the balloon starts going up, 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 and they're getting so excited, like, oh my gosh, there it goes. And then not too soon after that, they realize, uh-oh, it's like 30, 50, 60, 70 feet in the air. Oh no, what happened? Mind you, Richard is flipping out.
Are you in? Taylor! You didn't put the tether down! Spider-Man!
He's just like, he's cursing, he's like yelling at his wife, like, you didn't tie it down! And as of now, they're just worried that their thing flew away. Like, they don't have any idea about their kid in it or anything. So they're just pissed. He's mad that hundreds of dollars is being wasted on this experiment that just went wrong and his wife ruined it, whatever. And amongst all this chaos, one of their sons is like Falcon was in there. Falcon was in it. And Richard doesn't even hear him because he's just like yelling about other things. But then eventually him and Naomi at the same time go, "What?" Almost like it's a show. Mind you, this camera is in the backyard and a lot of this is happening in front of it. Like, I'm not saying they had a mark, but if there was a mark, I would not be surprised because a lot of this happens right in front of the camera, not anywhere else in the yard where, you know, the camera wasn't pointed or anything. Richard is like, he's not in there. He was just right here. Like, no, he wasn't in there. So now they're running around the house, the yard, they're yelling his name. They're trying to find him. Neighbors get involved because I guess their neighbor behind them saw this all happen. I would love to be the neighbor behind them because imagine what their yard was every day. Like, I can't even imagine what goes on in there. But nobody can find Falcon anywhere. The cops even come, they search the house 3 times top to bottom. No Falcon anywhere. So this flying saucer that maybe has a 6-year-old boy in it is now heading towards the airport. So now literal air traffic is of concern because this thing is like 10,000 feet in the sky. Planes are flying at that altitude, helicopters are below that altitude. So Richard decides to call the FAA and the FAA is literally like, girl, what? Call 911. The call to 911 is just like silly in a sense where the operator, I think she thinks he's on drugs because he's literally like, I think my son is in the saucer. It flew away. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? And he keeps trying to explain.
Was the flying saucer in the backyard?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the Loveland Airport and let them know as well.
The 911 operator is literally like, so it's an experimental plane? Like, they just are so confused. But at this point, it's on the local news. And it's interesting because the local news was reporting it as if the kid was 100% for sure inside. Like, nobody knows at this point, but the news is like, there's a child in it and uh-oh, what's gonna happen? There's like a helicopter following it. It's delayed, obviously, for live television because they're like, I don't know, if the kid falls out, that would be bad, obviously. This story then goes national. I mean, it's on like every big CNN, Fox, like all the freaking news places. This thing has been in the air for 2 hours. A neighbor actually takes a photo of it and it's a pretty grainy picture, but it looks like something is falling out of it. I mean, people see it and they're like, oh my God, that looks so bad. It's not for sure a human. It could be a bird or like something falling out of the flying saucer that's just like a part of the project or whatever, but it doesn't look good. So they're like, oh my God, maybe he fell out. So the balloon is losing a bunch of helium and it's beginning to descend. And it actually lands super softly in like a plowed area of land. Like, it couldn't have landed in a better place. There's firefighters there. They're kind of like cutting through it, trying to find the entrance of the whole thing. And there's one reporter or one journalist there, and he's the one that has to like communicate what they find to the news. And he's obviously very stressed out because he's like, I don't know if I'm going to find a deceased child in here, or if he's not in here, maybe that's worse. I don't know. So eventually we hear from him and he's on the news and he's just like, I don't really know how to say this, but there's no person in this balloon. So now everyone is like, oh my God, he fell out and died. They do a whole ground search. I think it was like 55 miles. This flying saucer flew. And there's obviously media, journalists, reporters, so many people outside. I can't even imagine being in that situation and how annoying that would be of just like people who just want to make money off of your tragic story. Wait, is that what I'm doing? No, I'm doing On True Crime. It's fun. And they're not letting Richard leave the house. He wants to go search also, but I think police are just like, why doesn't the family stay here? Because they don't know what the hell's going on, you know? Maybe the parents put him in there. Who knows? And Richard also says that they don't have cable, so he's not following the story at all. I do feel like if you don't have cable, don't you still have a couple channels and it's mostly like news channels? But the Heaney family is just in their house. It's a little sad, chaotic. No one's really sure what the hell is going on. And then all of a sudden, Falcon is just standing in the kitchen and he says, I'm hungry. And of course, Richard, the dad, is like, where were you? Like, what do you mean? So he says he was trying to sneak into the flying saucer. He loved the little space inside. He said he wanted to live in it. It was just so nice and cozy. He got scared and eventually left the launch fully. So he wasn't even in the yard when the thing took off. He said he went to his new hiding spot that was in the garage attic. He fell asleep, and then hours later he heard people and cars outside the house, and he got hungry and came out. And it's so funny because he literally just walked inside, and some of the reporters were just like, wait, who's that? And like, I'm sure some of them knew it was him because they had seen photos and stuff. So I'm sure that was just like a crazy time out there. But people are like, wait, didn't police search the whole house? Like, they couldn't find a 6-year-old boy? that's kind of weird. But the cops were like, well, we didn't search thoroughly enough. And it's like, yeah, I guess you didn't. So Richard and the family come out to talk to the media. He is claiming he doesn't want to do this at all. He's like, I didn't even follow the story. I just knew what the police were telling me and like theories. And also I don't want to talk to the media. But he ends up coming out and they just seem a little like, I mean, I'm not going to judge this, but they do seem very disconnected. And the dad is just kind of like, thank you everyone for looking. I thank you to the news. Thank you to blah, blah, blah. And then just like goes back inside. And it's just very strange. But also, I guess in his defense, like he just went through this thing where he thought his son died and now he's alive. So maybe he is a little woo-woo right now. I don't know. And then a bunch of people want them to do interviews, obviously. Richard is like, I don't want to do interviews. I don't want to do interviews. Oh, wait, I'll do Larry King. So that night, the same night he went missing and came back, they go on Larry King. And it's not Larry King interviewing them. It is Wolf Blitzer. I don't know who that man is, but he's the one interviewing. And Wolf asks Falcon,
did he hear anything? Did he hear you screaming out, Falcon, Falcon?
He's asking Falcon, did you hear us calling your name at any time? You did?
You did?
Why didn't you come out?
You guys said we did this for the show.
Man.
No.
And Richard's explanation is that he had a big hiss in his ear because they had these little like in-ear things, obviously, because they were doing this interview from home. He said he wasn't sure what he said, but he kind of heard him. Who knows? And one of his brothers to this day says, I don't know why he said that. Like, I was really confused why the hell he said that. So Wolf is asking, like, wait, why did he just say that? And Richard says, I think he was talking about the media asking a bunch of questions, which, like, to a 6-year-old, I mean, maybe. So now it's just a whole mess. Now, if they just didn't do this interview, it could have been done. You know what I mean? But now they did this interview, and now everyone's like, oh my God, it's a scam. The parents did it. It's a hoax. His parents hid him and didn't tell the police, and then they just wanted fame, etc., etc. So Falcon now says, I remember that day like it was yesterday. He said there was a media person in their garage and he asked Falcon, he goes, can you show me how you got into the attic for my show? And so I guess to him, you know, he's 6 years old. He was like, okay, this is a show. I don't know. So he just ran with that. That's his theory. So Richard, of course, is like, oh my God, we need to go on another show to prove that this actually happened because the last one made it seem like it didn't happen. So they go on another show. I think it's the Today Show. And they're asking Falcon, you know, questions like, so did you do this for a show or, and Falcon just gets sick. And so Richard just answers the rest of the interview questions, but he ends up getting just very annoyed. He's like, I don't know why people think this is a hoax. I'm done with this. So the public is now kind of diving into who these people are. They're like, who is this family? What do you mean they made a flying saucer and they also used a storm chase and this guy is like an amateur scientist? Well, guess what, guys? This couple was on damn Wife Swap in the early 2000s. And if you don't know what Wife Swap is, I will explain it very briefly, but it's, oh my God, it was my childhood. But it's basically about two very opposite families, like dramatically opposite. Like one would be a very like evangelical Christian home and one would be an atheist home. Or one, like the one they were on, was a family who was wild and crazy, didn't have many rules. And then the other family was like, their kids were scared to go outside because they didn't want to get hit by a car. You know what I mean? So they switch wives for 2 weeks. And the first week, the wives have to go by the household rules that is always there. And it's always entertaining and just kind of like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then the second week, they have to go by the new wife's rule. And then at the end, they all meet up and have like a little reunion, the four of them, and just kind of explain, you know, what went good, what went bad, whatever. They are on Wife Swap before this balloon incident. I think it was like a year or two before. Like it wasn't that far before, but they were on it twice. But the first time they were on it, I watched the episode. Oh my God. Okay, well, first I want to say, I feel like they were for sure acting. The way that Richard acted with this new wife and the way Naomi reacted with the new husband was just so insane. They were just clearly over the top. You can just tell it's acting. I don't even know how to explain it. You know when you're watching a TikTok and it's obviously a couple who has an entire page of pranks on each other, and then you're looking at the TikTok and you're like, okay, well, obviously they know it's a prank. Like, you can tell by how they're saying, what? Like, it was like that, you know? And Richard is just such an asshole. I mean, he acts very sexist. I mean, he tells a lady at one point, he's like, well, you're older than 25, so your brain has gone downhill. I mean, it's so bad. He says his wife hasn't happened to her because she has her childlike demeanor about her. He also says that men in America all hate her after this episode. And then she's like, no, I think people in America are going to be like, why can't this man wash one dish without throwing a fit? This man is literally Tom Sandoval. I don't know how else to explain it other than he says, you know how I'm going to react when you say that? And then he starts playing the harmonica really fast. So I'm just going to give you that. But he is a huge asshole. And then at the end, they all meet up and he writes a song for the other wife. And it is so stupid. And I mean, it's silly. To me, I'm like, this is obviously fake because he was so irritated and mad at her and like yelling and everything. And then at the end, he was like, no, I want to understand you. I think we could do better. And I think we can actually teach the kids something. It's like, I don't know. Richard claimed he would have never done wife swap in a million years, but they were offering to pay them. So it's like, oh, so did you apply? Like, huh? Even though I do feel like he was playing up his character like crazy, he was saying insane things. Also, their rules were so crazy. Like, Naomi had to do everything while Richard researched all day. Would like research storms and clouds, and you know, obviously they'd have to drop everything when a storm was coming because they got to go chase it with their little kids. So then Richard thinks it's a good idea to release more clips from that day of when the actual thing started flying and send it to the news so people could watch it and actually see them flipping out when the flying saucer took off and they realized maybe Falcon was in it. People literally think it's acting. It's kind of like how I saw them on Wife Swap. I think they thought the same thing. People were saying it's reality TV show acting. Like, it's just not good. Before the Balloon Boy incident, a man named Robert Thomas worked with Richard on a proposal for a reality show. And it was kind of like they want to do some sort of science reality show. They thought of ghost hunting, storm chasing reality show, experimenting with magnets. And in it, I guess it says, can we attract UFOs with a homemade flying saucer? We will electrically charge it. We will utilize the media to make our presence known to the masses. This will cause controversy and publicity. It sure did. 2 days later, the sheriffs call 40-something-year-old Richard and say, you can come down and get your flying saucer now. He goes to the police station, and they actually are kind of wanting him to do a polygraph test. I think the flying saucer thing was just a ploy. And he does it, but he acts so odd. Like, at one point, he pretends to fall asleep. Because he's like, I haven't slept in 2 days, which, you know, could be true. But he was using proven methods that are things you can do to try to defeat a polygraph test. Like, he was tensing a lot. He wasn't answering directly and kept answering questions. Usually with polygraph, I believe it's mostly yes or no. So if somebody said, did you think your son was in the flying saucer? He should say yes or no. I'm assuming he was probably trying to explain it rather than just say yes or no. I don't know. The test comes out inconclusive, and then Naomi does a polygraph test. And she completely fails the polygraph test, and she's very tearful. And this is where people say she confessed. I don't know if I'm comfortable enough to say it was a confession. The officer asked her, was this a hoax? And she said yes. But later, she said she didn't know what hoax meant. Okay, so we'll get back to that. But he goes, did you build this for the hoax? And she goes, the experiment wasn't only for this. I don't believe there was any sentence that was like, we did this as a hoax on purpose to trick everyone, to gain attention, whatever. Again, she says her English wasn't very good at the time, and she didn't know what the word hoax meant, which, like, I don't know. I feel like that's so fair. I feel like hoax is a weird word. But the sheriff says she has a degree in English that she got in Japan, and then she went to college for 3 years in America. So he's like, there's no language barrier. But it's like, okay, yeah, she knows English really well, but I do feel like the word hoax is a little, like, weird. But I just don't think she was ever like, yep, we did it. It was on purpose. She was just answering questions that were worded strangely. I don't know. But it was enough for them to convict them. So also, I think, you know, we saw how Richard acted on Wife Swap, etc. She's probably scared of arguing, I would assume, and scared of men. I don't know. So originally they're looking at 6 years of jail time and $500,000 of fines. Also, fact I should have said a little bit earlier, but Richard called the news before he ever called 911 when this flying saucer took off. All right. He called the news first. They hire an attorney. His name is David Lane, and he actually represented a person who was committed of murder and was in jail for 10 years, and he didn't do it, and he got out. He says that when the Heenies came in, they went over the words hoax and fraud because apparently she didn't know what they were. And so he, went over the words with her, and she apparently thought hoax meant like an experiment. So when they said something like, did you guys plan this hoax? I guess to her, it was more so, did you guys plan this experiment? And she's like, yeah. So look, I don't know either way if she knows the word hoax, but it kind of makes sense to me if, someone who's not English speaking first would not know that word. So the DA comes to the lawyer with a little agreement if they want to agree to this, but it would be for Richard to go to jail for 30 days and his wife will not be deported to Japan. And David, the lawyer, is like, wait, what? Why are they threatening to deport her? Like, that's for this? Like, that's crazy. She didn't do anything like... I don't know. She didn't kill anybody. The sheriffs claim they never threatened with deportation, but I could definitely see them for sure doing that. So Richard ends up spending 90 days in jail, and Naomi is sentenced to 20 days in jail, but she just has to go and sign in every day and then go do community service. And I believe they did them at separate times, so they would make sure that there was like a parent home with the kids. And when David, the lawyer, is talking about this, he's literally crying, and he was like, it's just so unfair. I'm just like, I mean, yes, if this was not a hoax, that really sucks that all happened. But it's like, this man spent 90 days in jail. There are people like that one guy who were in jail for 10 years and didn't do anything. Like, I know you shouldn't compare whose problems are worse, but it's just like, brother, you're a lawyer. I'm sure you've seen way worse things happen to way more innocent people. This is crazy. So when Richard is done with his jail time, he calls his probation officer and he's like, we want to move. So the whole family relocates to Florida to just start over. I mean, everyone in that town, I'm pretty sure, believes it was a hoax. And in 2020, they pardoned Richard and Naomi. So their records are good, and Naomi became a US citizen. So that's great for her. Now, it's kind of like, okay, so what happened? But I want to read you a little article. It was published in 2024, and it says, the Balloon Boy hoax solved. So this is a person who went and spent some time with the family. And it is just, I'm just going to directly read from this article. I will also link this article in the description because it's just crazy and there's more in it that I'm not going to read on here. On the second day I visited Balloon Boy's father, he was standing in the back of a pickup truck, inflating balloons and letting the family dog bite them. That perhaps was the least bizarre part of my visit. During my time with Richard Heaney, his wife, and their 3 sons, I was shown a video of the kids' heavy metal band, the Heaney Boys. I got a demonstration of Richard's back scratcher he was selling online for $24.99, and I held a battery-operated fan in a small plastic box that men could shove down their pants to cool their genitals. He calls it a blowjob. In this article, they talk about Richard's felony. It says his felony disqualified Richard from the holy grail of reality television for inventors, Shark Tank. He says, I know I could impress the sharks. Just give me a shot and let me do my thing. And this is where it possibly gets maybe the juiciest. So this man that was visiting them got like a box of documents from the courts or something. I can't remember who it was, but I don't really care either way how he got it, but I think it's interesting what he got. It says, buried among the final pages were copies of handwritten notes. The first page had a blue sticky note on it that read, Notes from Naomi. The following 12 pages appeared to have been created for her attorney, a blow-by-blow of the event. The first entry dated April 27th, 2009. The production company had gotten 5 rejections on a reality show over 5 months. On September 30th, Naomi wrote, Richard redesigned flying saucer many times. He started 30 feet. He called around to see if it's feasible, but he found it way too expensive. He also found it wouldn't fit in our backyard. On October 1st, it says Richard made a shop list. On October 2nd, it says we shot the intro of this project on the couch with kids. On October 3rd, she says, we started building a flying saucer and shooting the process inside of the house because it was snowing. On October 6th, it says, we have a video of Falcon saying, I want to get inside of it. On October 14th, it says, at night, Richard asked me to remember about the story of Lawn Chair Larry. I just want to explain Lawn Chair Larry very quickly. It is hilarious and bizarre. It is this man who got a bunch of weather balloons and then bought like a $10 lawn chair at Walmart and flew away on a lawn chair. Then Richard mentioned, what if Falcon hid for a half hour later? Then Falcon can hide in the closet with a safe in the basement. October 15th, she wrote, to my understanding, we're never going to launch the flying saucer because the strong wind changed our mind. Because of the wind, it might crash crash on somebody, cars, or anything. Richard said we would do the third test and quit. That's why I thought he was acting so strange. After the flying saucer went off, he went so hysterical. Because he started so hysterical, I started taking it seriously. After it launched, we did not know whether Falcon was in the flying saucer or in the house or anywhere. So to me, I'm gathering they for sure planned that he was going to hide and they were going to make this story. But I think what happened is maybe Falcon actually hid somewhere else and then they actually did panic because they were like, wait, did he get in it? I think that's probably what happened, but I'll continue. On October 18th, I found out when we visited our attorneys that Richard revealed he came down to the basement to look for Falcon, but he wasn't there. Richard thought really Falcon would be in the flying saucer. So then it says, I decided to call Richard for what I thought would be the last time. He fumbled for words when I explained what I'd found. He wanted to know where I'd gotten the notes and if he could see them. I could hear Naomi in the background denying to her husband that she'd ever written anything. I emailed the photos of the notes to Richard and he asked if he could call back the next day. He didn't. 2 days later, he called back. This whole thing never happened, Richard said. So you didn't suggest that Falcon could hide in the closet with the safe in the basement? I asked. Naomi suddenly broke in. I made the whole story up. What? Richard said. I wrote it, Naomi said. She started to cry. What do you mean you wrote this? Richard yelled. What the fuck are you talking about? You said you didn't know what this was. Why did you write this? She says, to save myself because of our kids. And he goes, oh my God, what the fuck? What the fuck? Every time you write something, you cause a fucking shitstorm. It says there was a brief back and forth. Naomi continued to cry. It was difficult to understand what she was saying. Richard yelled some more. The moment reminded me of the video the Heenies made of their balloon floating away when Richard yelled at Naomi and the kids and kicked the wooden launch pad. According to Naomi's notes, that had all been an elaborate ruse. Now it appeared they were doing it again, this time for an audience of one. I think for sure they did do it as a I think what happened was they literally did plan it and then he hid somewhere else and then they were actually scared he was maybe in the thing and then now they're caught in this lie that they had planned but it actually went differently than they thought, so then they actually got scared and thought he was gone. I don't know. I did all this research before I watched the wife swap episode and then I watched the episode and I was like, this is fake. Like the wife swap episode made me fully believe this whole story is not real. Just because the way they were acting, like I said, over the top, felt like acting. And especially because they were being told no for reality shows so many times within that time they were doing the balloon boy thing. And the whole publicity part of it all, it's like, yeah, they obviously did this to get some damn attention. It's funny because I feel like most people who didn't like follow this story just thought that he was napping and that was it, and like everyone's like, oh my God, thank God. Like I remember kind of seeing it on TV and stuff, and up until I actually looked into it, I thought that they just thought he was in it, but he was actually just napping, and it was crazy because the cops had looked for him and the neighbors and everything, and he just wasn't anywhere. But let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe. I will see you guys next time I post. Bye.